Foundation's International Women's Day webinar. I am Samantha Rattan and I am your MC today. Today's theme, Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, aligns with the core mission and the very vision of the Foundation, which promotes technological change and education to achieve gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. Now, bringing women and other marginalized groups into technology results in more creative solutions and has more significant potential for innovation that meets women's needs and promotes gender equality. Advancements in digital technology offer immense opportunities to address humanitarian and development challenges, and of course, to achieve the UN's 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Today, we spend an hour together as we celebrate women and ideate around ways to advance their growth and success through innovation and technology. It is now my pleasure to invite Chairman and CEO of Avasant, Kevin Parikh, to present opening remarks. Kevin?
Thank you, Samantha, and happy International Women's Day to everyone. It's my pleasure to kick us off today, and what a wonderful day to do so. I also want to thank our partners, the United Nations Global Compact. This has, been a journey. Avasant has since 2011 partnered closely with the UNGC, and the Sustainable Development Goals have integrated so well into the UNGC over the years, and it's become a way for all of us to align and connect in the private sector, and of course in our nonprofit organizations as well. Today, we're proud to honor and celebrate the achievements of women globally. But, much has changed, and I would say even in the past 2 years, so much has changed, in fact, that what seemed like great advances, there have been some steps backward. And I think that it's important for us to identify those and to grab them and try to change them. These step backwards have actually, I believe, harmed not just equality, but also the story of women on a global basis. UN Women estimates today, for example, that it'll take nearly 300 years to achieve gender equality. 300 years. 2.4 billion women of working age are not able to afford the basic economic opportunities that put them on par with men. 178 countries still maintain legal barriers that prevent opportunities for women not just to have choice, but also for them to have access to the full market participation that a man does. 151 years is what the UN estimates it will take to close this economic participation gap. And sadly, still today, one woman or girl is killed by someone in their own family, essentially every 11 minutes. 44 million women and girls have been forced to flee their homes. And this is important because today global conflicts are really driving that, not just because of climate change, but also because of war. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. Next slide, please. One in 5 girls are living in conflict zones with devastating impacts on health, well-being, and future opportunities. If you look at just top 5 conflicts today, the Ukraine-Russia war, Syria, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, what we're seeing is new conflicts, which are actually driving challenges. 90% of those people that fled Ukraine were actually women, children, and young girls. UNICEF has a program, in fact, to help displaced refugees, which Avasant is proud to support. But that program is just a drop in the bucket for the impact on these people. Many of the young girls in particular were unable to go to school and post-relocation. In Syria, a war-torn nation, Only 16.9% of women feel safe in their own communities. We know of the stories of Iran as well, with a young woman who was essentially left for dead by the police because she chose to not dress in a manner which I think was socially acceptable. In Afghanistan, women are banned from attending secondary school. And in Pakistan, women account for a mere 22% of the labor force. These are real issues that affect us today. This is not the 1900s. And even here in the United States, where I live, a woman's right to choose is being questioned, even today. Next slide. But there's hope, and I believe in technology. Democratizing broadband access, something that we are making tremendous strides on today, is a real opportunity for the world. With over 3.7 billion people, mostly women, that don't have access to broadband, we are bringing new technology through SpaceX and Starlink to be able to light up those communities. One of the interesting things that happened after the Ukraine war is, with just about $10 million, which is really a drop in the bucket to build a network, SpaceX, as a satellite-based technology, was able to restore communications in Ukraine in just a few days. This is very promising because it's bringing the cost of connecting the world closer together and lower. And as we become closer together in this new world, we have an opportunity to be able to keep women in the workplace. So this is very, very important. To the extent technology can be used to bridge the boundaries and create opportunities for young girls to stay in school, even when their communities don't allow them to do so. Next slide. The Avasant Foundation remains committed to creating meaningful employment for young women. And in that sense, we have many partners, many programs. But the main thing that we're able to do is bridge the employment gap, I believe. And this is really, I think, what creates the opportunity. Keeping young girls in school is, of course, very much part of it, but ensuring that they have the right training to be able to get the jobs of today, the digital jobs of today, is critical. And I'm proud that we have made that a priority for our organization. Next slide. We have an opportunity to influence and drive meaningful change. It's incumbent upon us to do so. While we still have a long way to go, the time to act and invest in women and girls is now. Thank you very much for the opportunity to kick off today's session, and a very happy International Women's Day to all.
Thank you, Kevin. Such a thoughtful analysis and valuable leadership insights. Today, we have an incredible panel who will undoubtedly engage and inspire us with their unique perspectives from the front lines as they explore leveraging innovation and technology for women's empowerment. David Fiss, Head of Engagement, UN Global Compact Network USA, is our distinguished moderator. Our esteemed panelists include Chitra Rajeshwari, Executive Director at the Avasant Foundation, Nuria Simo, Distinguished Fellow, Avasant and former CIO of the IDB, and Wendy Garrett, Advisory Board Member at the Avasant Foundation and VP Sales Enablement and Strategy over at Capgemini. David, it's over to you.
Thank you, Sam, for that introduction and for inviting me to moderate this critical panel on International Women's Day.
Great to have you, David.
What's that? At the UN Global
Compact. Great to have you.
Oh, it's great to be here. So much to dig into today. Very excited to be here with the panel. At the UN Global Compact Network USA, we value our two organizations' great partnership and collaborative spirit. For example, this year, Avasant Foundation completed Network USA's Target Gender Equality Accelerator, a 6-month program designed to support companies engaged with Network USA in setting and reaching ambitious corporate targets for women's representation and ensuring equal pay for work of equal value. Furthermore, if you find today's session valuable, please check out Network USA's website to learn more how your company or you can take meaningful action towards SDG 5, which is Sustainable Development Goal 5 for gender equality. There'll be a link in the chat. We look forward to welcoming the Avasant Foundation team this month in New York as Kevin participates in the CEO Roundtable, a gender equal future of work at UN headquarters on the sidelines of the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. Kevin will gather with other global chief executive officers championing gender equality to reflect on how businesses can guard against exacerbating inequality in the future of work, the criticality of male allyship in the corporate space, and discuss how the private sector can take advantage of the current disruptions to accelerate progress of a gender equal future of work. Network USA, like many of you on this call, is committed to helping American companies set and reach ambitious corporate targets for women's representation and leadership. It is critical to collaborate with experts and organizations like Avasant Foundation to help our companies understand and deepen their implementation of the women's empowerment principles and strengthen their contribution to Sustainable Development Goal number 5. All businesses stand to benefit from greater equality for women, so we invite you to adopt the women's empowerment principles, joining over 3,000 other business leaders worldwide who have done so. You can use these principles to empower women in the workplace, marketplace, and community. Subtitled Equality Means Business, the principles emphasize the business case for corporate action to promote gender equality and women's empowerment. More details are shared in the chat. These principles result from the collaboration between the UN Global Compact, UN Women, and are adapted from Culvert's Women's Principles. I'm honored to begin our panel with our esteemed leaders. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. Chitra, I wanted to start with you today and ask you how Avasant Foundation focuses on providing digital skills and training to underserved communities. What's the positive impact on gender equality as a result?
Thank you, David. Thank you, Kevin, for kicking this amazing discussion off. And welcome, fellow panelists, and happy International Day, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. And David, what is very exciting for Avasant Foundation is that our mission and focus is in the space of education, employment, and entrepreneurship, with a big focus on digital skills training to enable job creation. And part of that focus is having a minimum of 50% women in our classrooms. So we are already part of that journey. We started the journey some time ago, and we continue to focus on the DigitALL, technology and innovation, which is the topic for this year for International Women's Day. We've been part of the journey for some time now, and what we find is that getting these young women and providing them with these digital skills training has really changed, has had a huge impact in their lives, and that impact does not end with them. The ripple effect of that we are seeing in their homes, in their communities, and then of course in the end overall their governments. We're so focused in the emerging markets that these kind of digital skills impact. We measure the impacts of job creation, but also measuring to see how the impact is how the skills training is impacting the communities, and that has been phenomenal.
Terrific. And can you share more about how you're reaching out for, or how can folks apply for training on their own?
Right. So when I'll take an example of a country like Guyana. So when we went to Guyana, we were told time and again that the culture in that country is that the families will not allow young girls to go to be part of these kind of skills training program. I think Kevin alluded to that, where many of these young girls are either sent to do some domestic work or have to contribute towards the family of taking care of their siblings or the elderly, because they see that that is the predominant role for a young person. So our drive when we start a recruiting process is to have additional emphasis to get these young women to participate in our training program. So we take additional steps to engage these young women and their families to join our training program and explain to them the value add to it. And I'm very thrilled to say that putting so much emphasis on this, we now have an average of 65% to 70% women who join our training program, which is phenomenal for us. So obviously we're doing something right here, but also the impact that they have in their homes and to their communities and to the young daughters is fantastic to see. There are also many of them, once they complete a training program, either they go directly into jobs. If they have some kind of informal work, they're able to go into the formal employment. Many of them look to go back to university so that they can get a degree. So paying additional emphasis on getting women and young girls into our classrooms is really paying off. And the hope is to continue this trend so that we see the uptick of girls and women participating in technology-driven skills training and in the workplace.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Chitra. Nuria, can you share, thinking through how the COVID pandemic accelerated the digitalization of all generations and of the workplace, and how it's established remote working as an acceptable and welcome way of working? How is this new reality and the opportunities that technology brings impacting gender equality?
Good morning and happy International Women's Day. It's a pleasure to be here celebrating this special day with all of you. Yes, David, what has happened is actually, I would like to say that there are two different realities. One is the reality of the more developed economies, in which we already see the women engage in the labor market and in the economy. But even this, which at the beginning, it looked like working from home, being able to use Zoom, Teams, on all these tools was like an advantage, actually is proving also to be a disadvantage for women for several reasons. For example, we know that there is a bias in the workplace in which women are evaluated harsher, are less seen, have less opportunities for networking. So working from home is aggravating these aspects. There is less opportunities for women to be seen and for their work to be, let's say, showcased. There is less opportunity for networking. There is on top the responsibility of taking care of, home and kids and all that. And all this is really making it harder. And a lot of women are quitting their jobs because it is proving to be, stressful and unsustainable. So this is a reality that it is affecting. And one of the solutions for that is to have more formal and established and clear career paths. It has been proven that when there is informality on establishing the career paths, and is left to supervisors, unfortunately, the unconscious bias kicks in. So the more formal that this is established, the better for gender equality in this career progression. But then if we look at the disadvantaged communities, be that in developed economies or in underdeveloped economies, the problem is aggravated because of the lack of access to digital literacy, to be trained. So that's why what Chitra was saying is absolutely fundamental. And I think Avasant is doing a fantastic job. And my former employee, the Inter-American Development Bank, also in making sure that we bring training. But what is also more important, that we bring role models, because sometimes girls and their families don't even think that that's possible. But when they see that they can do it, that other women are there and they have perhaps come also from difficult environments like them, it really open their eyes. So I think what Kevin said, that broadband access to digital access in general, it's the biggest opportunity we have to push the gender equality agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nuria. And as a little bit of a follow-up, as we think about sustaining the positive change and how we can grow it versus the mentality of kind of going back to the way things were, noting that we've made strides in gender equality, considering companies are asking employees to come back to the office and the unintended disproportionate impact on women. Nuria, panel, Wendy, Chitra, what are we thinking about that? How do we sustain this positive change and kind of keep it forward versus going back to where we were?
If I may say very briefly, and then I'll let the other panelists. I think that the important is not to think that there is that one size fits all, because the realities are individual. So for some people, it might be better to go back, for some women, to go back to the office. For others, it might be better to stay home. But we have to put in place methods of evaluating that are fair, that are not based on face time in the office. And that's fundamental. So I think that we all should rethink, how are we going to treat employees? How are we going to measure them in a hybrid world? Because I don't think we are going to go back to 100% in the office or 100% at home. We are going to be navigating in between. And I let now the other panel.
Thank you, Nuria.
Yeah, I would agree, Nuria. And I would say, the discussion we just had about there's good things and bad things that go along with being able to work remote. I was a mom of 4, and I was lucky that I was able to remote, work for quite a while. And it really did make a difference. But yes, at the same time, I sure would have liked to have gone into an office and had some adult interaction beyond just a Zoom call. So I think, one of the things that Capgemini is doing that I think is really impactful and powerful at this stage as the world of work is changing is we're creating personas for our different employees, right? And within those personas, everybody has a different type of need, right? And a different situation. And we're really trying to modify the way we look at our employee base differently. It is not a one size fit all by any means. And I think that the advent of this technology, new world that we live in is giving us more flexibility to offer some of those options to, again, different personas within the corporate world. Right?
What powerful intentionality. That's terrific to hear what Capgemini is doing. Chitra, how is the foundation enabling this?
Yeah, so I concur with my fellow panelists, but just taking a different take on this is something that our CEO, Kevin, has talked a lot about, and we also wrote an article on, is the borderless workforce. And what we have seen is that, in a way, technology enables this borderless workforce. So when I look at our students who have graduated from our training program, the 32,000 plus lives that we have impacted, actually, digital innovation and technology enables them to stay where they are and they are able to participate with Fortune 1000 companies across the globe, because if they have the skill set and the talent, they don't have to commute or transfer or relocate to a different country or a place to get a decent job. They are able to do the jobs right from where they are, their homes, and yet contribute to the wider workforce, right? So we look at it from that perspective. So when we do the training program, of course, the focus is job creation, but we never emphasize the fact that you need to go into an office to be able to do the job, but that you can participate with a company like, for example, Capgemini, which is a global company, and yet work from living in Guyana or Trinidad and Tobago if you have the skill set. So, there's plus to it. It's a win-win all around, David, going into an office, which is nice to collaborate with your colleagues because so much of knowledge sharing happens. Sometimes just looking at a screen is not enough. But then for those who cannot relocate, I think it's amazing that technology enables that opportunity as well. So I think it's a conversation that will continue to grow and evolve as things change in the technology space.
Terrific.
David,
yeah, go ahead, Nuria.
Yeah, if you let me, because this is a number that really shocked me. For example, which a study that we did in a family where only the man was breaking his back, working hard, and was making $500 a month. When one of these girls was trained, she was able to make $1,000 a month. Can you imagine in a family that a young woman can bring double the salary of the father in this case? So I don't think that sometimes we realize the tremendous impact that we can have in families. As Chitra was saying, it's not only the women, it's the impact on the family and even the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Incredible. Well, let's dig into a little bit of thinking about examples of how technology and innovation are helping with gender equality issues overall. I'd love to hear from our panel about examples they know or positive impact they've seen?
I think it's just leveling the playing field, David. That would be the word I would use. It's leveling the playing field, right? It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter what your skill set is. You don't necessarily, excuse me, have to have that college degree coming out of the gate these days. You know, you can be trained on something in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, even through, you know, our programs here at the Avasant Foundation, and be employable. And that's, you know, that's so new compared to where we were, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I think it is leveling the playing field across the globe for everyone to participate in, you know, technology and the advancements that are being made.
Thank
Exciting.
you.
You know, Harvard Business School had an article just recently, I think it was a couple of days ago, where they talk about, and what was fascinating is they literally, the article is about training, like the kind of trainings that we provide at Avasant Foundation. And they're not taking anything away from the universities. You know, we're not taking anything away from a college degree. I think it has its own merits. But what is interesting is there's, I think Kevin's presentation had this 2.4 billion women, you know, at the age, working age, and still don't have formal employment. So what trainings like what we are providing, the Avasant Digital Skills Training or other, you know, certificate training programs, is enabling, the word is enabling folks to get into the workforce, get the skill set that they require that can be applied to a job right away. And that is what we are trying to create, is get them into the workforce, start earning an income, and then go back to college if you want to get a degree, if you want to pursue a different career or whatever you want to do. But these kind of skill sets are, I think, a requirement in any country to enable folks to get into the workforce, and especially for women who are catching up with men. You know, we are still playing a catch-up game, irrespective of the fact that organizations are hiring more women. You know, I'm sure we'll talk about unconscious bias, but again, it's becoming almost mandatory on the CSR reports for people to check the SDG goal number 5 to show what organizations are doing to enable women, not just to get into the workforce, get into the businesses, but also have a career path, get into leadership, and have a successful career. So I think the first step is providing these kind of digital skills training program to get them through the door. Nuria, I'm sure you have something to add here.
Well, this is like a very simple case that doesn't involve, you know, very advanced technology, and probably something we don't even think about. But there is an NGO in Pakistan, I think it's called Vitak. I hope I say the name right. That they they provide education, sexual and reproductive education to women. And they found out that they were doing a great job, but they couldn't reach enough people. So going like one town at a time or one community at a time was very time consuming. So they started to do this through WhatsApp. And they are now providing this education, this training. They provide videos, they provide visuals. And it's also something that in communities where, let's say, the role of the women and the subjects are taboo, has really opened up incredibly. Another case, going back to what Kevin said, in conflict zones, there are at this moment millions of, thousands of women that are in refugee camps. And for example, this NGO also is helping to bring education, because in these communities, it is not allowed to talk, for example, about female menstruation. And they don't even have the basic needs that they have. So they are using technologies like WhatsApp and like Zoom and Teams and all these tools to make sure that they reach out to these communities, that they talk to women, and something that is taboo, they cannot, you know, they cannot even change during the day. They have to do it at night because they cannot be seen doing anything around this subject. So they are trying to bring visibility for these refugee camps to provide women with these very necessary and basic, let's say, things that they need to go through this. So imagine if we are talking about this, how it is talking about the workplace and working. these communities are even millions of years away from the subjects we are talking about, career advancement and gender equality in the workplace. So just to bring that thought to all of us.
Thank you, Nuria. And we actually have a question relative to what the Avasant Foundation might be doing in Pakistan. And since you brought that up in your remarks just now, I wanted to see, Chitra, if you are aware of any work that the foundation is doing.
Not at the moment, because there are some challenges to kickstart some of the initiatives in some countries around the world, but that doesn't mean to say it may not happen. But we definitely have a very large footprint across the globe, and we've been growing the foundation initiatives very organically. So I hope someday it brings us as far as Pakistan as well.
Great, thanks for fielding that pop-up question that we saw from the audience. I encourage more participation where people have questions to share. Wendy, headed over to your direction. Can you share a bit about how we're all responsible for advancing gender equality? That's clearly, I'm here because I care deeply about this. We all care deeply about this. The responsibility to advance gender equality is all of our both opportunity and commitment. And can you share more about how men can help champion the agenda and give some specific examples?
Well, I think it's men and women, right? It's not, it goes across boundaries. I think from a corporate standpoint, I think men can help by allowing a woman to have a platform, right? To have a voice. Sometimes we're not as loud as the gentlemen in the room, and unfortunately we get drowned out with some big voices. And I think that men can do a lot of good by controlling the situation and giving the woman the opportunity to have a voice in that room. But beyond that, David, I think it goes to everyone involved. I heard a speech the other day. It was by Angelina Jolie, who actually received an award for John Hirschwald, I guess, humanitarian award. For her work with difficult situations, let's put it that way, and folks in need. And she made a statement about, why me and not her? And she was referring to, over somewhere in the world, there's a woman that's just as strong as I am. There's another woman somewhere that's just as tenacious as I am. There's another woman out there that's just as intelligent as I am. But unfortunately, she sits in a refugee camp. Right? She has the same goals in life. She has the same desire to take care of her children as I do, but she sits in a situation where she doesn't have the same privileges that I do. And I think that is really where the responsibility comes to those of us that are fortunate enough to be in environments where, maybe safety isn't our number one concern all day long. We have opportunity, and we need to do our best and do anything we can to help those that don't. And I think things like the Avasant Foundation really open up an avenue for those girls in those camps and refugee camps. And again, going back to that example, but across the globe, in situations where they don't have the same privileges that we do here in the United States. So I think the responsibility is global. It's about advocacy across the board, men, women, to do our best to help those that need the help receive it where we can give it, really.
That's terrific. I think personally, when I think of allyship, there's this need to both be meaningful, responsible, and align in a caring and diplomatic way. Can you help men who and anyone, again, to your point, I think this isn't just an opportunity for men to dig in, but anyone who's thinking about stepping in to champion and advance the cause and might be hesitant because they're afraid of doing it wrong versus doing it right. Can you give any advice on just how to dig in and do something and not worry, like not let perfect hold up good?
I like that statement. No, I think just jump in. I think at this stage, all hands on deck, right? If we really want to make an impact, I think that, fail fast, right? And find a way. And I think that at this stage, we all need to just put our best foot forward and do our best to change the game. 300 years is a long time, and we need to try to narrow that gap.
Well, you heard it here today. Step in and get and step in, step up. Other comments from Nuria and Chitra on this?
Wendy, you're spot on in everything that you said. I would just add that it's a partnership. A man and a woman on this planet Earth, irrespective of how you identify your gender, it's man and woman. It's a partnership. And I think what is important is that we acknowledge each other. I think we are at a time when technology enables a lot of opportunities, opens a lot of doors. I don't think we should be championing one particular cause. I think we have to champion each other. You won't believe this is so funny for me to say this. Very strange to make this statement here in this conversation. We do a digital skills training program in the Bahamas. We actually do a special drive to get men into our classrooms, only because we have done such a good job of having women in our classrooms that there is this tendency for men to think that this training is only for women and it is not for men. So I think we have to also be very careful the language we use so that men don't feel that they're being excluded or that they are not required, because men are the champions for women's rights and for women's advancement. Unfortunately or fortunately, that's how it's been set up over the years. And I think we have to start looking at each other as equal partners, number one. Number two is we don't have to talk loud to be heard. So we should be given that opportunity to have our soft voices that can still be heard loud and clear in a boardroom or in a classroom or in your homes, right? And then what is very important is that education piece that needs to happen, especially in the communities where Avasant Foundation offers these kind of skills training, is not just getting the girls into a classroom. We actually educate the families to understand the importance of a daughter. She's just as equally strong and relevant as the male child, and that she can, like Nuria's point of view, she can draw the same amount of salary and help the family because she can do just as good as the male child or even better, right? So I think the narrative has to be more about the equal opportunities that we can bring to each other. Of course, women are still lagging way behind in so many areas, and we need our male partners to be the champions to help advance many of these opportunities that has not happened in the conflict regions, what Kevin talked about, refugee camps. Again, I'm extremely passionate of that area on my personal time. I do volunteer in the refugee space because there is such a big need to it. So this is something, David, we could talk for hours and we will not reach a conclusion as yet. But yes, it's a very important question, and I think there's a lot that still needs to be done.
Thanks. And you brought up some interesting themes, one being language and the power of language and the clarity it provides. And there's emerging thoughts on, well, I won't even say emerging, but I think contemporary thoughts on mentorship versus allyship versus championing and championship, and really what the notion of championing versus mentorship can do in terms of equity, inclusion, kind of push or pull. And I just wanted to open up a conversation with the panel around the power of language and where we're at and kind of our evolution of thinking from mentorship and allyship to championing. Any thoughts from the panel on that?
David, I think that if you let me step back a little bit to the conversation right before, I think that the bias it is not just a men thing. I think that women also have a bias, believe it or not. So I've been witness on a recruiting panel in which was a woman, a colleague of mine, who was judging harsher the candidate than the men. And that is where I think that we all have a role, as they were saying, as partners. We should just help each other, because we will all fail one moment or another. We'll be caught on our biases. So it's important that we understand that it is collective, it's a partnership, and we should all point out at each other when we fail or when our biases are taking over. But I wanted to say that one of the things that can help is when you talk language, I think it's very important. One thing that we did is, and I'm sure many companies are doing it, is, for example, just in the postings, in the job postings we do, unconsciously, we are sometimes already pushing women out. They are not applying because the job description is already saying, I don't know, you have to be available to travel. Some women immediately think, I cannot do it, I have small kids. then we have to be conscious and saying, okay, do we mean intensive travel, or do we mean available to travel once a year? And there are many things that we saw that, and actually talking technology, there are tools out there that you can use to neutralize your job posting, because there are many like subtle things in the way we describe it that put women off, and they do not even apply for good jobs. So technology can help a lot. Also, doing a blind selection, no name, no gender, no picture, nothing that can identify if it's a woman or a man. So there are ways to fight these unconscious biases that we all have.
What a great example of how technology is aiding in the process. Wendy, Chitra, do you have any follow-up? If not, we can move to our next question.
One thing I would say is, more than mentorship and championship, we like to use the terminology sponsorship. And I think it's important that we provide the young women who are getting into careers to have a sponsor. And what that does is it takes away from that mentor or a coach or ownership. When you have a sponsor, that sponsor could actually create pathways to success, because that person is investing in you more than just guiding you. So they can be your sponsor. So you can have a sponsor in an organization. Anybody can be your sponsor, and at any level you can have a sponsor. And I think that has really shifted the way people are getting guidance, career guidance, personal guidance, because the sponsor takes the responsibility to do it's like a complete, an overall support of the individual, from helping them on their personal growth to guiding them through their career and the career change they want to have, or the opportunities that's out there. So I'm a big champion of the word sponsor, having a sponsor. And I can talk about unconscious bias till the cows come home, but let's move on. Thank you.
Wendy, anything to add?
No, I heard sponsor, mentorship, ally, champion. To me, as far as I'm concerned, at this stage in my career, I'm everything to everyone that's willing and interested in having me help. End of story. I don't need a label that tells me what my function is for that particular girl in my organization. I'm just there, and I will find a way to help her succeed. Whether it's through championship or sponsorship or mentorship or just being an ally. So I think that, at the end of the day, it's great to have, verbiage that we want to align to certain, personas, but at the same time, I think we all, once again, need to just jump in, and step up.
Great. I want to do a little bit of a follow-up on the unconscious bias and how innovation is helping overcome that. Are there other examples beyond Nuria's that we can think of specifically how in developing markets, innovation and technology is helping overcome unconscious bias? And I'd say not just in developing markets, but anywhere there's an opportunity for innovation technology to aid in overcoming unconscious bias.
I will say, I think it's just putting more girls on the, on the docket, and the more interaction that let's say the gentlemen have with these girls that are now in the workforce, that unconscious bias starts to fade. Really, that's really what it's about. If we give them opportunity, then hopefully all those things that have been holding us back all these years will, slowly dissipate.
I think there are multiple layers to unconscious bias, and I think that for some it's just checking a box. For other organizations, it is actively and consciously trying to overcome the biases. But again, Nuria, I think, touched on this earlier a little bit. Women themselves cause some of these biases. So I think that, David, it's very hard to give a one sentence or a one-word answer to it. I think it depends on the situation where you are, how organizations are consciously making the change and the shift happen within their organizations. I'm very proud to say that I work for a company that's consciously eradicating unconscious biases. You know, like our organization, I'm with Avasant, this is my 10th year with the company. And I'm very proud to say that our company today has more women working for the organization than male. And it's not because we're checking a box, but it is because we're finding so much of great talent that they're being brought into the organization. I'm sitting here in Trinidad and Tobago. I remember coming to this office where it was 2 or 3 employees. And today, the Trinidad office is run by a very young, dynamic person, and she's recruiting the best that she can find. And many of them happen to be women. So she's not looking to hire women, but it happens that many of the employees in this organization are fantastic women, and we have great men as well. So I think that unconscious bias is something that we have to take it, you know, it's like almost like an onion, peeling the onion skin, you know, and you still find something underneath and you still find something. But I think for organizations to be very conscious about it is a first step. And then when it comes to individuals and personal communities, again, educating the communities and helping them understand, I think matters. And I like the way Wendy said that, you know, taking out all these allies and coach and mentors and sponsors and being there, and that individual can also help highlight the biases so that they're coming from a space where they're able to be the champion for what's happening.
Thank you, Chitra. Panel.
Yeah, David, just a remark. I think that it's very important to understand that, particularly in societies where the women is seen as less, and I'm talking about extremes cases that we all know about and that Kevin mentioned, you have to work with the community, because you cannot come with the paradigms of the Western world and trying to, you know, apply those things. We all know that everything starts with education, because that's where, you know, from where the opportunities will come. That it is very important that you do not conflict or enter into an antagonism with the community. So you have to embed yourself in the community, and then you can bring through digitalization, you know, the education, or showing role models, or creating the opportunities, the job opportunities for these women. But we have to be very careful with that.
Wendy, did you have anything to add? If not, I have a follow-up.
No, let's go with the follow-up, David.
Great. Well, and it's a great bridge because you referenced the personas that Capgemini has developed. And I think that's really important intentionality in terms of clarity and thinking through the notion that the same thinking that got us into a problem can't get us out of a problem. What unique qualities of leadership do women bring to help us move forward on the topics that we're talking about today? Again, not that I, as a man, someone who identifies as a man, can't aid in this process, but if we think again about the personas, the unique qualities, and where we're at now, what are the positions of leadership and kind of leadership qualities that women are bringing to the table that are unique and differentiated?
Well, I can start, and I think Nuria, you probably have quite a bit more experience on this than I do. But I think that, you know, from my perspective, it's patience. It's you know, persistence. We tend to see things at I would say broader spectrum sometimes, at least in my world and the you know, IT outsourcing space that I live in. I think that creativity is also huge. You know, Chitra, like you said, down in the area of Trinidad that you're at, I bet you a lot of those women are excited and creative, and that's one of the things that brings them to your organization is they're building things, right? And that's something that we enjoy doing as women. But I think that the patient piece of it is also, you know, a big part of you know, who we are and what we bring to the value chain here is our ability to step back and see things at a broader scale, because we're used to multitasking. We're used to having lots, you know, kids and this and that and all these other things going on at once. So we tend to take it up a level, and I think that that's of value to most corporations today. Nori, I'll let you expand on that, because like I said, I think you've got a bit more experience than I do.
No, I think that you are right, but patience is not a skill that adorns me. So I'm sorry to say I'm not very patient. But I think that empathy also, the fact that women tend to be more empathetic, that helps to move this agenda forward, because we put ourselves in the shoes of the person that is suffering. So for me, it's patience, it's empathy. It's also the fact that we can give examples. from ourselves. So it's not that we talk about, you know, other people. We can give examples of how things have happened in our career. And because I'm, you know, older than all of you, I can tell you that the world in which I started to work was very different from the world where we are today. So I was hiding when my kids were sick. Okay, I was not saying I have to stay home because my kid is sick. I was saying that I was sick because I knew it could not be accepted. So I think that we have a special role in partnership with men, but obviously we bring the passion and the focus because it affects us and it affects our daughters.
And I would add that I agree with Wendy and Nuria. I would add is also that nurturing, you know, it comes naturally to women. And so they tend to be a little bit more sensitive to certain things in an organization, can be a great support to some of the new hires, you know, so that comes to play. Compassion is another big word that comes to mind. Empathy, of course, you talked about patience. And I found that a lot of women tend to be good listeners because they want to be heard. So they put themselves very quickly on another person's shoes because they know they want to be heard. So these are some of the great qualities that women bring as leaders in an organization. And then they also always want to fit in. So they make amazing team players as well.
I concur with everything I've heard, and from my experience, there's an observation where I think there's more influence versus authority. Even if the authority is already there, I tend to find the women leaders that I watch in business leverage influence versus authority, even if they have the authority. And I really see that how that helps accomplish goals and objectives and team building much quicker. I'd challenge everyone who identifies as a male in our audience today to go find a woman leader and make them your sponsor, your mentor, so that you can seek to understand and learn from them. I've done that and very grateful for the community that we have here today. So as we round out our panel, a final question, some final thoughts. We're about halfway to the 2030 agenda of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And as things currently stand, and as Kevin shared at the front of this, we're not on track to achieve gender equality, not by any means, not by 2030, not in 50 years. I think the actual number on a global level, when we take into account global perspectives, is 286 years from today that we would, at today's pace, achieve gender equality. We've already seen technology's positive impact on advancing gender equality, yet we still have a gap and a long way to go. The pandemic has continued to affect women disproportionately, but the figures pre-pandemic were not encouraging either. Earlier, we heard from Avasant's CEO and chairman, Kevin, about sharing about flashpoints and their impact both as acting as an accelerator via galvanizing movements and the underlying vast opportunities at hand. Panel, as we wrap up today, let's discuss how can advancements in digital skills training, technology, innovation, and measurement tied to KPIs aid the private sector in achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 5. That was a mouthful, but we got it out.
I don't know. I think, David, that I see two aspects. One is individual, right? So if every person that is listening here, and you know, we all take individual responsibility on affecting our family, our workplace, our church, any communities that we engage with, and if we take as an objective, help somewhere else in the world where we can help, every little contribution, it's a big deal. But then I also think that we should perhaps have a bit of a strategy of being more subversive, in the sense of, I don't know if it's the right word in English, but what I mean is there are huge influencers in this world. And Wendy mentioned Angelina Jolie, but you know, in the online world, there are many other influencers. If we can somehow also reach those influencers to influence, you know, through things like TikTok or anything that youth is being influenced by, I think that that's also something that we should be using. Let's use technology to improve this agenda.
Thanks, Nuria.
And David, I think you mentioned private sector, right? And how we get the private sector to really adhere to some of the KPIs that we're trying to put in play. I think that, you know, there's a lot of KPIs around sustainability right now. There's a lot of KPIs around how many women you have in an organization, your diversity, inclusion numbers, all that stuff is great and wonderful. But I think at the end of the day, you can put quantifiable measures around it, but it really is about cultural change. It's about dialogue. It's about having exposure to, you know, those underserved groups that now, you know, you're seeing the value that they bring to the table, and that changes the game. It's not about the number, it's about the quality that's brought into an organization that changes the culture, that changes those unconscious biases. And I think the private sector is catching up with that, right? Of course, there's numbers we need to meet and KPIs we need to report. But at the end of the day, it's the culture shift, and that culture shift is happening across not just, you know, my company, but every corporation that I have been engaged with. Those initiatives are there, and I can tell you they're initiatives that people actually care about. It's not just a number they're trying to check the box on. So to me, that's exciting because it's you know, it's a shift in mentality, and that's what we need.
David, I think it's about.
I agree with my both panelists because it's not KPIs either. Yeah, we do measure impact because that's something that we need to show. But end of the day, it's the cultural shift that needs to happen. We cannot wait for 286 years for this to, you know, for us to overcome this. It is something that I think every organization should be absolutely conscious about and should culturally invest in wanting to see the change happen. So measurements are very important, David. I agree with you, but end of the day, it's the kind of work that I'm privileged to do every day, and I see the change that's happening every day is what I think would really check the boxes. And I don't think it should be the responsibility of non-for-profit organizations alone to do this. I think the private sector, the public sector, the government, every institution, I think, should really come on board because there's a lot of work to be done. And I think that this is a journey we all have to take together. So
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chitra. Kevin, some final thoughts from you?
You know, I think it's about healthy community. Companies, organizations, governments, they're communities of people that work in these places. And what I've seen in our own company as well is that when we have a gender balance, we produce greater things. We are more creative. We actually not just produce greater things, but the men become better and the women become better. We actually need that because the world is not a place of only men, and the world is also not a place of only women.
Do I hear a little bit of a better together?
Well, I think so. Look, we absolutely compete in the market. We have competitors. We also support our customers. And I can tell you, we're a better company today, and our community is better, and people are happier because we have that that gender balance, and it's something that we work towards. So I think that community is something we can't miss because it's not just about KPIs. It's about creating that feeling of teamwork and community that can only come when we have that gender balance. And we're still working on it as well. I mean, this is a work in progress for us all.
Well, we've got 2 minutes left, panel. Are there any final thoughts for our audience to walk away with today as we celebrate gender equality and International Women's Day?
Wendy, go first.
You throw to me. Final thoughts. I'd say, you know, like we've talked about a few times, David, jump in. Just jump in. You know, even if you're fear, you know, you're not doing it correctly, there's no time for that. Just jump in and do your best to help where you can, and believe what you're doing. And we keep talking about the corporate private sector. You know, one of the things I love about the company I work with is my CEOs on down believe in the charter. And that's how you know it's the right thing to do. It comes from top down. It is not necessarily a bottoms up activity. So I do hope that, you know, that trend continues, but exciting to see the shift.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, I think that we have a great example here with Kevin. I think that when the CEOs commit to it, you know, organizations follow the leader, and that's very, very important. So the more CEOs we can convince to put this as a real priority, not as a look good statement, you know, to really commit to it. And then mentor, sponsor, coach, in any label you want to put it, take under your wing young women, little girls. Doesn't matter if you are a woman or a man, you can do a good job, but take some people under your wing, and you will be, exponentially multiplying the impact that you can have, because they can become future leaders, future sponsors, future mentors.
Thank you,
And
Nuria.
I would say that it's not a box to check. I think that I hope this start a conversation within the organization if you haven't done so already. This is a very important topic that needs to be addressed. It's about partnership. It's about respect of each other. It's about having that dialogue, listening, empathy, compassion, everything that we've talked about. I agree it should come from senior management, because then it will be implemented, but also let it be bottoms up as well, because the junior people may have something to contribute towards it. They will have something to contribute to it. And I think that needs to be recognized. Look at our Trinidad office, like I said, that it's run by a very young lady, and the organization is growing so beautifully. It has expanded. They're really, feet on the ground, reaching for the stars is their attitude. And it's such a welcoming change. It's a breath of fresh air for the organization. So you can have change from all areas, from all sides of the organization. But I think that we should look at it as a partnership, and gender equality is a must. It's a very important topic to be discussed. And I hope each one of you who are listening today, there is some takeaway for you so that you can get started somewhere. So thank you so much, David.
Well, thank you to the Avasant Foundation for bringing us all together, recognizing the progress we've made today and the amount of opportunity going forward. Thank you to the audience for their time and attention. Turning it over to Sam for the close.
What a wonderful and thought-provoking session. Thank you to Kevin, David, Chitra, Nuria, and Wendy for sharing such incredible insights with us. And thank you to you, our audience, for being part of the Avasant Foundation's International Women's Day webinar, Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. It was really great having you join us. Happy International Women's Day. Take care, everyone.